So to shift gears a bit, talking today about the gift economy. And how many of you, just by show of hands, are familiar with this term? Okay, quite a number, about half, a little more. And so we could start to talk about it just very succinctly in contrast to the market economy, which is more or less the water we're all swimming in the United States and contemporary society. And it's pretty straightforward. You work a job, you make some money, you get to go buy things, give other people their wages, and then they can go buy things. And money is this common denominator in the market economy. Curiously, what we find is almost implicitly it turns money into this highest good, because money can get you things which then give you happiness, or get you experiences which give you happiness. And so you have this whole world, the system of people running around chasing money and the things it can buy. And if that was the answer to life, none of us would be here today. We would be out earning money and buying things. And yet, I don't mean to throw that out and say it's bad, it's just a thing. But there's this other thing we could call a gift economy. And at the core, the gift economy is about shifting from a transactional mindset where I give something and I get something to a relational mindset where what is it to enter into more a web of relationality? Even just heard in the announcements a great example of the web of relationality going here. Oh, there's garden club, there's people volunteering, there's AV people and Qigong people. For a moment behind the scenes, I heard Jim Knott might not be here. And then it was, oh, okay, who's going to do the Qigong? And it was a quick volunteer. It's like, oh, how wonderful, this web of relationality that's being entered into. And most of us live in both the market economy and the gift economy, even if we don't realize it. Gift economy, the formal definition I like to use is it's a system of exchange based upon the principles of gratitude and generosity, where gifts are given freely among a community without expectation of return. And most of us experience this already in our family life, our close friends. Say you have even an adult child and you have some furnishing you don't have use for. You could sell it, but you say, hey, child, take this old couch. It's yours. You don't expect something in return. Well, I gave you that, so now I expect you to spend 2 hours cleaning my bathroom on Saturday. The gift economy isn't really like that. Maybe it's just picking up the tab for your friend at lunch. Maybe they'll get you back sometime, maybe not. But in that moment, you just offer it. One of my neighbors really, really loves their leaf blower. And part of the way they contribute to the gift economy is I live in this little cul-de-sac and they blow the leaves from everyone's sidewalks. And it's, they never asked me. They've never asked for anything in return. They just do it. It's like, oh, that's the gift economy. And what that does is it inspires me. Can I go even out of my way, just a teensy tiny bit? I know they don't like me parking in a given spot. Okay, I won't park there. Not out of a tit for tat thing, but I'm inspired by their kindness to offer my little acts of kindness in return. And so the gift economy, it's not a system of one-off exchanges, which is common in our world. I go to the gas station, I give them money, they give me gas. I go here, I buy this, I get that. It's more, no, what is it to enter into this whole web of relationality where gifts are exchanged freely among all members? So on a high level, this is what the gift economy is pointing to. And what I wanted to talk about today is look at some of the historical roots of Buddhism, how this idea has really been very central to the Buddhist tradition since its inception, and also speak to how it's relevant today in our lives in this market economy. So firstly, around the time of the Buddha, for those who know something of the history of India, the caste system was very prevalent at that time. And there was this hierarchy of castes. People born to a certain bloodline have more privilege in society in pretty dramatic ways. And so at the top of the hierarchy was the Brahmin caste, who were often the religious and spiritual teachers. And they were, my understanding, usually the only ones allowed to be, at least in the traditional religious system at the time. And so the idea of gift giving at that time was you give gifts to the Brahmins. And it makes sense. You're the ones in power. You say everyone needs to give gifts to us. If you don't give gifts, maybe you'll go to hell, bad things will happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there was a reform movement, as I understand it, that pushed against that. And the way they pushed against it was to go to the other extreme and say, well, gift giving doesn't matter at all. There's no consequences, there's no cause and effect, there's no afterlife, it's all fated, deterministic, it doesn't matter. More of a nihilistic view. And so the Buddha came around and he touched a middle way. And he said, no, gift giving does matter, but not to the Brahmins. One should give a gift wherever the heart feels inspired. Giving should be an act of freedom, not something forced, not pressured. Where does the heart feel inspired? That is where one should give. And so this sets the stage for the early Buddhist monastic community. So in the Buddha's time, there was this culture of wandering ascetics, spiritual practitioners. And as the Buddha formalized the community that followed him, the renunciates, the monastic men and women, were not allowed to use money, were not allowed to cook food, were not allowed to break the earth. So not even taking a cabbage out of the ground or an apple off of a tree. They weren't allowed to store food overnight. And so what this created was a system where they were literally reliant on their survival by non-monastics. And traditionally it said there were 4 requisites. There was food, clothing, shelter, and medicine. And the idea was creating this system, which was well established within India at the time, that lay people would provide to these renunciates these requisites. And the monastics were not allowed to make special requests or say, I'd really like that chickpea curry, don't so much want that plain rice. They weren't allowed to do that. It's just you take what's given and you just trust that it will be enough for your survival. They also weren't allowed to do things like state their attainments. They couldn't go around saying, I'm a very enlightened monk, you should probably up the gift a little bit because it will be good merit for you to give to such an enlightened person as myself. So they weren't allowed to do this. They had to be very humble and simple in it. But one of the things the Buddha said is that at the same time, the way that they were to receive gifts was attentively and with respect. Irrespective of how grandiose or how minuscule the gift may have seemed, if it was a gift given, they were to act respectfully and gratefully. Now, how beautiful is that? And those of you who have heard a Dana talk in the Buddhist tradition have probably heard something said about that's not the size of the gift, it's the movement of heart. This was embedded right in from the beginning of the Buddhist monastic tradition. In the time I spent as a monk in Myanmar, got to really go into this age-old tradition of begging. And maybe more than anything, this is well symbolized in the begging bowl, part of the monk's basic kit. I literally got a little monk kit when I ordained. It's kind of amusing. But so you get this bowl and every day go out on alms round. And this was some of this idea of not storing food overnight is it forces relationality, forces every day the lay people and the monastics to come face to face, to see each other and say, hey, we're all in the same community here. We have a reliance upon each other to make that personal connection. And there were definitely some days in doing this, we'd go out every morning, early morning on alms round, when it's pouring rain, blazing hot, or you get that odd day in February in Myanmar that it's quite cold, and you don't want to go out. You're like, oh, I don't want to. Just want to stay inside and have someone come feed me. But it's not like that. There's something important in spite of one's preferences, something important about entering into this relationality day after day after day. And I found it to be very touching. Sometimes you'd get little 4-year-olds put the rice in the bowl and I'd have to bend over. Sometimes the elders, 90 years old, can barely walk to the front of the sidewalk, but they come out there to make their offering. And I've been presenting one side of this, but the other side, what the monks offer, the nuns, the renunciates, it's said traditionally, most importantly, they offer spiritual guidance and embodied inspiration. In those cultures, there is a society where spiritual practice is highly valued, where society sees having a group of people holding down principles of integrity, of kindness, of love, of discernment, of peace, calmness. Like, this is important in a society, to have a big sect of people who devote their lives to that. And so just the fact that you see that every day is inspiring. I like to go to monasteries semi-regularly, and that's one thing I often take from it. Maybe my meditation practice actually goes a little deeper if I go to a more traditional Western retreat, because at a monastery, there's duties and there's some talking, chores, but you get to embed yourself in this culture of generosity. Embed yourself around these people who have literally renounced everything to devote their lives to these beautiful qualities of the heart. There's something very touching about it. I find that, at least. It's like, wow, it inspires me. Okay, if they've given their lives to it, I can at least give some of mine. In most monasteries I've been to, the senior teacher, the senior abbot, or even just other monks are generally quite available to talk to. And in a lot of these traditionally Buddhist countries, at least in the Theravada tradition, like Myanmar, Thailand, Sri Lanka, lay people are invited to stay there. No charge. Come and stay. Take refuge in this as a place to land, to develop the heart, to engage in a wholesome rhythm of life. Personal guidance is offered, group guidance. Also, something I see in a place like Myanmar, the monasteries serve a very vital community role. It's a sort of coming together. Instead of coming to gather at the bar on a Friday night, the community gathers at the monastery. Help out, do service projects. A lot of monasteries. Recently, I went to a place in northern Thailand, and for the alms round every day, this whole group of lay people would come together, make a food offering, and then they'd all eat together and hang out for a while. And I thought, how beautiful. It serves a cultural role of coming together in a wholesome way, developing connections. In also these same countries, there is a practice of a lot of families who are poor and impoverished send their children off to receive education at the monastery. That's a big role these monasteries play in society, is educating children spiritually and the kind of basic academics. And so I guess what I'm trying to illustrate here is there is this kind of two-way reciprocity. The monastics play a role in these cultures and the lay people play a role, and there's a symbiosis. It's not a tit for tat thing, like, okay, this abbot gave me 20 minutes of his time, they gave me 2 meals, they didn't give me dinner. I probably would give more if they gave me dinner, but the bed, the mattress was only this thick, so I think that's worth It's not like that. It's just this, you enter into this whole different currency, this whole different way of moving. Hmm. Really what we find in this, the biggest reward, say for the monastics, there's this emphasis in the tradition that the teachings are not wages. They're not offering instruction and guidance as a wage with some expectation. And I heard interesting, one prominent monastic teacher said donations should be given before a retreat or before a talk, because when they're given after, it's tempting to just see it as a transaction. They gave me a thing, I'll give them the thing back. And he said, what we want is to get into this gift economy mindset. How does my heart move me to give? And when we enter to that place, we see the biggest reward is that own sense in our own heart. Like, oh, I've helped out. Like, this helps. And then the other person, they're moved to give something back in return. So the underlying spirit of all of this, there's a quote from the Anguttara Nikaya, from the Buddha, I rather like. He says, there are two persons who are rare in the world. Which two? The one who is first to do a kindness, and the one who is grateful for a kindness done and helps in return. That's a beautiful little pithy statement. Two rare people. And so that second part, one who is grateful and helps in return, there is this phrase in Pali, katanyu katavedi. And it means something like gratitude, generosity. And the Buddha very often, almost always, uses them together. As if one is really grateful, well, of course you want to help in return. And the connotation of gratitude in Buddhism, this word katanyu, we translate as gratitude, it's not so much a general appreciation, like how nice that it's sunny today, or cloudy, or whatever it is. The connotation is more one who knows what has been done for their benefit. If you think about that, okay, to have a clear sense of what has been done for my benefit. And this could be indirect or direct. So even just coming here today, we can tune in, wait a minute, I can be grateful that this place like PIMC exists. I can be grateful for all the people who made this possible. The construction workers who built the building, the people who made these chairs and meditation cushions, the people who brought them into this facility, the prior people who donated to help this keep going, to those who tend the garden and run the AV. I can be grateful to the lineage of teachers. And there's a sense, wait a minute, all of this is benefiting me. Like I'm here and I'm gaining something. And there's a lot of people who have been behind this happening. So to attune to gratitude in the Buddha sense, it's like, wait a minute, they didn't have to, and yet they did. On a simpler level, you're driving on the highway, someone lets you merge in front of them. You're coming in the building, someone opens the door. They didn't have to, and yet they did. A friend just sends you a random text message. Hey, how you doing? They didn't have to check in on you. They could have scrolled Instagram. And yet here they are checking in on you. How are you doing? They didn't have to. So this gratitude in the Buddhist sense is really opening our heart to this way. People don't have to, and yet they do. And we're a beneficiary. And the idea why the Buddha always puts that sense, or almost always, with an acts in return, it's kind of what I've been saying, that when you really open yourself to that and you see that, when someone lets you in on the highway, you're like, oh, it's better to live in a world where we let each other in on the highway. Not where we're, kind of, what's the phrase? You ride the tail of the person in front of you to prevent anyone from getting your precious space, that you may arrive at your destination a quarter of a second quicker. It's nicer when you're just more relaxed. Oh, of course you can come in, dear stranger. Hmm. Hmm. So Robin Wall Kimmerer, a Native American elder, has written quite a lot on the gift economy. And so she writes from the perspective of the Native American tradition. And she has this quote I want to read, a few paragraphs. And Native American, but this is one of the most Buddhist things I've ever read. So she says, gratitude is so much more than a polite thank you. It is the thread that connects us in a deep relationship, simultaneously physical and spiritual, as our bodies are fed and spirits nourished by the sense of belonging, which is the most vital of foods. Gratitude creates a sense of abundance, the knowing that you have what you need. In that climate of sufficiency, our hunger for more abates, and we take only what we need in respect for the generosity of the giver. If our first response is gratitude, then our second is reciprocity, to give a gift in return. What could I give these plants in return for their generosity? It could be a direct response, like weeding or water, or a song of thanks that sends appreciation out on the wind. Or indirect, like donating to my local land trust so that more habitat for the gift givers will be saved. Or making art that invites others into the web of reciprocity. Gratitude and reciprocity are the currency of a gift economy, and they have the remarkable property of multiplying with every exchange, their energy concentrating as they pass from hand to hand, a truly renewable resource. I accept the gift from the bush and then spread that gift with a dish of berries to my neighbor, who makes a pie to share with his friend, who feels so wealthy in food and friendship that he volunteers at the food pantry. You know how it goes. To name the world as gift is to feel one's membership in the web of reciprocity. It makes you happy and it makes you accountable. Conceiving of something as a gift changes your relationship to it in a profound way, even though the physical makeup of the thing has not changed. So instead of money being the currency, gratitude and generosity, this currency of this alternate economy. It's really a whole different way of orienting to our life. And even if we exist in the market economy, and even if on the surface, say someone is giving us money in exchange for some good or service, there is a spirit that goes beyond the exchange that we can bring in. Take the example of a car mechanic. You are going to the car mechanic, you give them some money to fix up your car. And on the market economy level, all they owe you is a fixed car. But to embrace this more gift economy spirit, well, maybe they lend you kindness and honesty, attention. They bring something a little bit deeper than just this explicit exchange. Also, once upon a time, I lived next to a mechanic, and we didn't have that much of a relationship. We just say hello and friendly, neighborly interactions like that. And one time, I was out in the street in front of the house with my hood popped open. I was poking around in there, and he just came out of his house and he said, "Hey, do you need any help there?" And I said, "Yeah." I don't even remember what was the issue, but I was like, "Yeah, someone's making some weird sounds, and I don't quite know what's going on." He said, "Oh, let me take a look at it." And he poked around. He's like, "Oh, I think I know what your problem is." He's like, "Okay, well, so you're probably going to want to go take care of this. Here's the thing to get." And his motivation was not to get a little extra money. I imagine his motivation wasn't sitting in his house saying, okay, well, if I go out there and help my neighbor, I've got a party coming up on Friday and I want really loud music. So if I do this nice thing for him, then he's probably going to be cool with my thing. It's not like that. He's just like, oh, someone is in need. Let me go help. It's like, oh, this is such a beautiful example of the gift economy at work. Because again, the more that I'm the recipient of those and I open my heart to it and I see it, I'm inspired to pay it forward. Maybe to him directly, maybe to the next neighbor, maybe someone, I'm more in tune. I don't know a lot about cars, more in tune to the emotional, spiritual realm. Maybe then I see someone at the grocery store who's in pain. I'm like, hey, are you all right? And then maybe that person, they're so touched by that, they go share it with the next person. It's like this. As Robin Wall Kimmerer says, you know how it goes. So when we look around us, this isn't exactly how it goes in our society. Greed is this very central pillar of the capitalism we live in, where there is this desire to get the best deal, to maximize the amount I can get with the dollars I have. I want to have as many fun experiences, as many resources, as much novelty, pleasure, toys, advanced tech, whatever I can afford. I saw this recently in my own mind infiltrating. I was going to buy a lamp on Craigslist. They had it listed at $40, and it's one of these pretty nice brass lamp. You get the button to hit the different brightness settings. And I thought, $40, that's a pretty good deal. I bet I could get them down to 30. And I thought, $40 is a completely fair price for this lamp. What is it in me that says I could get a better deal? This is sort of the capitalist mindset in a nutshell. And I was seeing that. I was like, you know what? This person thought $40 was a fair price. I think it's a fair price. Why do I need to haggle with them? Why? Can I just say, oh, yeah, okay, here's your 40 bucks. Here's this lovely lamp. I kind of think about it, a funny example that came to my mind, the similar greed mindset. If we brought this into our relationships, imagine you live with someone, a friend or family member, and they had a really rough day. They could use some emotional support, and you listen to them for 15 minutes, offer some warm, empathetic responses, and then you say, you know what? I'm going to need a back rub if we're going to go any further because I've listened for 15 minutes already and it's a little one way. We're going to need to have some real reciprocity. It's like, well, it sounds kind of silly, but that's what we do in our kind of market life with the lamps on Craigslist or, how we relate to spiritual practice. It's like, okay, well, place like this, they're not charging you anything. How much can I get? Okay, I want to have the Netflix subscription and I want to get the new iPhone and I want to go to Aruba and then I want to upgrade on the car and I'd like to get some meditation in, but it's like, okay, where can I squeeze? And this is just the mindset of our culture. And so can we just see that tendency? It's like, oh, does that feel like a real life affirming way to live? Hmm. I heard this other story from Robin Wall Kimmerer in that same essay on the gift economy. Um, I really loved this one. I've thought about this for years. So apparently there was this anthropologist hanging out with a hunter-gatherer tribe in Brazil, and they had a big kill, and so got a ton of meat. And the anthropologist was like, "Oh, how are you going to store all this meat? This is quite a lot." And the man looked at this anthropologist with a very odd look. And it's like, what do you mean? And so in the story, apparently, they had plenty of technology on how to store meat. That wasn't a thing. But he's like, What do you store it? I will store this meat in the belly of my brother. And I love that. I have abundance, let me share it. Not how will I stash it away. And of course, I don't mean to some backhanded way to say give away all your savings or something like that. We live in a different culture where having some savings is appropriate and wise. And yet, can we also embrace when there's abundance, maybe we can share it. And if we're cultivating that, whether it's abundance emotionally, abundance with time, abundance with resources, and we're cultivating these communities, well, when we're lacking in some area, there's probably going to be some coming back to us. So at the core, this currency of gratitude and reciprocity, part of that I shared at the beginning, it's really about shifting to more of a relational orientation to our life, less of a transactional orientation. So I'm married, and I met my wife a number of years ago, and something that initially I was really drawn to her about her, and we never really had a conversation in our early dating life about how we would handle like money and all that. But what we just kind of did was I would just buy things, and then sometimes she would buy things. Maybe it was like going out to a meal, or maybe it was, oh, I'm coming over to your house and you need a shovel. Okay, let me I'm stopping at the store, I'll get you the shovel. And I wouldn't say, okay, that shovel was $27.42, please Venmo me. We just had this real culture of, I don't know, I'm just going to give and you can give. And sometimes it would be physical gifts, sometimes it would be monetary. Sometimes I'd be at her house and there was a back pile of dishes. I'd just do the dishes. Sometimes she was at my house and it's like, oh, well, it's chore day. She's like, okay, well, give me the rag and the little spray bottle. And there was such a culture within this too of a freeness of giving with very little thought of what am I getting in return for this? I'm going to log this away in my little file book of all the ways that I've given you. And then I'm going to log away the ways you've given me. And I'm going to add it up at the end of the month. And I'm going to see who came out ahead. There's none of that. And so this is just a little example of how we can bring this into our friendships, into our family life. Can I just drop the expectation of return? And can I lean into giving? And just trust. We also see examples of this. Some I like, it was just announced there's going to be a potluck here. So we don't need to say, okay, well, I don't want to bring an item in the potluck that's going to be more wonderful than other people's items in the potluck. You just bring what you feel compelled to bring. Like, this is what my heart moves me to bring to the potluck. Maybe it's a bag of grapes. Maybe it's some elaborate soup. It doesn't really matter the actual tangible thing. It's that movement of heart. And when you exist in a whole community of other people motivated in such the same way, it kind of just works out. Maybe some people bring really elaborate things. Maybe some people are really strapped for time and energy and money, and maybe they don't bring anything. But it kind of works out when we all come together. In my teaching life, I just support myself entirely on donations that people give me. And it wasn't always like that. For a long time, I had other jobs. I worked for a tech startup. I worked at the Portland Saturday Market. I worked with special ed kids in the public school system. And then I teach. And people would say, well, is this teaching on donation thing working for you? And the implicit underpinning of that was always, are you making enough money? And for me, it was, well, it's always been working since day one. Because within myself, it's coming from this place of, well, this is how I feel compelled to share. The teachings that I learned, I spent these years in Asia, were given to me without any expectation of return. I once asked my teacher, Sayadaw U Tejaniya, he'd spent so much time and energy and created this whole place to help people like myself learn the teachings, the Dhamma. I said, how can I repay this? I just feel so much gratitude to you. How can I help? And he said, Just do your practice. Essentially, pay it forward. It's like, oh, how beautiful. And so to me, teaching on the gift economy is its own reward. And it's just kind of like the cherry on top that, doing this long enough, it's built enough, I can support myself in a more conventional way. And if it didn't, well, I'd get another job and that would be fine. For me, what's more important in teaching this way is really entering into that relational dimension. And this is the spirit that's captured in contemporary Buddhism. And that there's a lot of temptation and a lot of market forces and a lot of cultural momentum around just charge something already. I get this a lot. People say, okay, I'm doing this course. We're doing one-on-one things, a retreat, donation. They're like, I don't know. I don't understand. Does that mean it's free? It's like, well, no. Like if you don't have any money, that's fine, come. And also similarly, what I found something really beautiful open up is the way that this is not just about money, it's really more of a creative undertaking too. Like here, there's the garden, there's the AV, there's the board, the admin, computer stuff. I've had people, someone once was a photographer, he said, hey, do you want a photo shoot for your website? I was like, yeah, that sounds wonderful, thank you. And so it's like this. And it's not just lip service, I find, when a center like this or myself is actually service. Service is really powerful, important. I like to do fairly regularly just community service projects out in the community. I find that to be an kind of a living example of the gift economy. Not like I'm trying to make an example, but within my own heart, oh, yes, I could sit at home on my Saturday and watch movies or read or meditate. Sometimes I do that. But sometimes it's also nice to go out into the community to give back, to enter into this web of relationality. I think some of the real challenge in our culture with the gift economy is getting out of the scarcity mindset. We're really pumped with this message of never enough. You don't look good enough. You don't have enough money. You haven't had enough fun experiences. The list goes on and on and on. It's always never enough, never enough, never enough. I have a funny story. Years ago, I got this email from United Airlines, from the CEO, just to my inbox. Maybe some of you also got this email, but I was touched. The CEO of United Airlines wrote me this email. I usually just send them right to spam, but I was feeling amused on that particular day, so I opened this email. The first line is just about all these wonderful things United Airlines has been doing, more routes than ever, customer satisfaction, record levels, low cancellation rates. And I was reading this, I was like, wow, United Airlines is doing a great job. Next sentence, the bolded sentence of the whole email, but we can do better. Why do you need to do better? All these records, this is incredible progress. Sounds to me like you're doing pretty good. This is the cultural message. Never enough. It doesn't matter what it is, it's not enough. And it's really, really hard, even when you've been doing these practices for a long time, to totally break free from that. It's easy to turn our spiritual practice into just a self-improvement project. Okay, how can I get better? How can I less anxiety, more happy, more focus, more efficiency? Like the meditation we did earlier, can it be enough to just be here? Yeah, the mind does its crazy mind thing. Okay. The body doesn't cooperate. Okay. Enough. And so the more we can just see that conditioning in us of wanting more and wanting more, I don't know, maybe enough. Hmm. And so on a simple level, I think the easiest place to start to really embrace this gift economy is just with our close friends and family. Also places like this. You could even treat it as little experiments. Okay, what is it to lean into this more gift economy, relationality in these little areas? And then you might see it spilling over more and more into your workplace, to how you treat people at the grocery store, how you treat people on the highway. It's like, hey, we're all people doing this hard thing, being human, dealing with these feelings, with this culture of not enough. I get it. More of a benefit of the doubt is offered, more a generosity of spirit, attentiveness, care. Just a couple other notes. Some things that when I give this topic, there's often, if I have a bunch of time for questions, there's always some objections that come up that I'd preemptively cover some of the objections. So a big category of objections is fear. It says, well, what if I'm doing this, but no one else is? Aren't I going to be taken advantage of? Which I think is a fair point. And I've been in some relationships where that kind of happened. And I think what's missed here is just because you embrace the gift economy doesn't mean you can't have boundaries, doesn't mean you can't know your limits. It's like, okay, well, I only have this much time and I only have this much energy. I can give, but I know my limit. I know when it's kind of overextending myself. And what's really important to this to see is that the reward of the gift economy, the deepest reward is not what the other person does in response. The deepest reward is your own integrity and your own sense of heart. Like, it feels good to live this way. And so you can really cherish that and understand that and have boundaries, because at some point you run out of time and you run out of energy and you run out of money. And so wherever the line is, just, oh, there is a limit, there is a line. And what we find, though, is that it is contagious. Even if people push back up against us, when they see it, something starts to open, even just a little bit. I heard someone said this. I did a workshop years ago on community building. And someone said, as a community builder, recognize you're going to be doing more of the kind of social community building labor than the other people who just attend. And I thought the corollary for that as meditators is we're going to be doing more of the emotional grounding and centering work in our relationships than the other people. But just because I've done a ton of meditation and I'm pretty good at being calm amid stress doesn't mean I'm going to hold that against the people I'm in relationship with, my family members, and say, hey, I'm really holding more weight here on being calm amidst so-and-so passing away. It's just like, of course, I want to lend this outwards. The fruits of my practice, I want to share them. And so we can do that with the gift economy. Hey, I understand the real reward of giving comes more from what I experience within. And so I'm going to give, and I understand maybe there isn't total reciprocity. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's okay. And sometimes we do notice the desire for something in return. Say, well, I'm doing this, and a part of me does really want them to stop being a jerk. That's fine. Just notice that. If you see it, you're not it. It's just another data point like anything else. The Dalai Lama has this phrase I love. He says, wise selfish. The gift economy, wise selfish. Everyone benefits. Other people benefit, you benefit, the collective benefits. we see how it is this system, this bigger system we enter into of reciprocity.